own business in international affairs. But the real truth is that the old-fashioned ideas is tyranny, and we want to get away from those old-fashioned ideas. Freedom is a new idea, and it's only been tried in a short period of time, and that's when the world has become more productive and poverty has been wiped out. But what do we see now? We're drifting back in that direction, and people are moving into poverty, even in this country, because they do not understand and do not defend the principles of liberty. Approximately 100 years ago or so, philosophically, this country accepted the notion that freedom was made up of two parts. Two parts. One, where your personal liberties mean one thing, and on the other hand, your economic liberties are separate. That is complete nonsense. Liberty is one unit. You have a right to your life. You have a right to live your life the way you want. You have a right to work hard, and you ought to have a right to keep the fruits of your labor. In one of the debates, we were asked as a group, what do you think is the greatest moral crisis that we're facing today in this country? And the thought that crossed my mind during that debate, and I still believe it's one of the most serious moral crises we face, and that is we as a nation have come to accept, at least the policies go in that direction, that we as a nation now accept the principle of preventive war. Actually start a war. There is no moral justification from that, and there certainly is no constitutional justification to fight these many wars that we have been fighting without a declaration of war. We take the oath of office to obey the Constitution when we're sworn into office, and we take that when we're sworn into the military. And we swear to uphold the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. Guess what? We do a pretty good job defending against foreign threats. We overdo that because we have no foreign threats. We have no threat that somebody's going to invade this country. We have a threat of terrorism, but that is a consequence of a seriously flawed foreign policy. We overdo our concerns about our foreign threats, but we do forget about the threat from our domestic conditions that we have here. And since 9/11, our liberties have been threatened. They have been undermined. We are less free since 9/11. We're going in the wrong direction. Both parties in these last several decades, and especially in the last decade, has accepted the notion of the unitary president, which is essentially a dictatorship, allowing the president to make decisions on his own. And just think of the inconsistency of turning this power over to the executive branch and then allowing the president to make these decisions, writing executive orders. There should be essentially no executive orders, or very, very few executive orders. And we can't have a president that goes and takes a bill and arbitrarily writes a signing statement and says, oh, I only like part of this bill, I'm going to ignore the other part. No presidential signing statements to have line item vetoes. But what about the bureaucrats in Washington? Do you think they should have the power to write law? Where did they get this power? Only the Congress is supposed to write the laws, and yet bureaucrats are writing the laws all the time. Just think of the Federal Register. Volumes and volumes and volumes, and if you don't understand every single regulation, you can get into big trouble. And yet, isn't it wonderful? Isn't it wonderful that the Constitution is not complex? We can read it, and most school kids should be able to understand it. But that might be one of the reasons the Constitution is not taught in our public schools, because if we raise up a new generation of individuals, they might realize that this whole system of government that we're inheriting and that we're working with and trying to change is unconstitutional. We shouldn't have it. Another reason why we have lost the Republic, it didn't come all of a sudden. It has come slowly and insidiously. The last 100 years has been tough on the Republic. But it started immediately after the Constitution. I mean, the Jeffersonians argued with the Hamiltonians, and they talked about central banking and big government and sedition acts. And so the fights were going on very early to undermine these principles that the founders understood. But today, it's been more rapid, it's insidious and slowly. But I think what has lulled so many people to sleep has been that we have been pretty prosperous. We're still fairly prosperous. But there is a big difference today, and why the people are awakening is they know that it's an illusion. They know that the prosperity is actually going down, and they're starting to realize that this prosperity comes from too much borrowing and too much spending and too much inflation. I haven't even gotten to that part yet. Will you do it again when I get to that part? You know, it is said that we are having this threat of terrorism because of the clash of civilization. Another civilization wants to attack us because we are a certain civilization. I haven't bought into that. But there is some religious problems in the world that helps contribute to this, and there's a foreign policy problem that contributes to it. But I do believe that there is a real clash and an argument between radical Muslim fundamentalists in contrast to secular Muslims. It just happens that we as a nation have allied ourselves with secular Muslims, imposed our will by propping up these puppet governments in the Middle East, antagonizing and actually giving motivation to the radicalism that wants to come here to kill us. But why should that be so strange? What if somebody came over here that looked differently than us, had different religious and different values, and put an air base on our land and imposed their will? The one good thing that would come of that is this whole country would be totally unified, because we would resent the enforcement and the occupation of any foreign power on our land. Civilization advances when you have less power in government. The more power you have in government, the more they resort to the ancient tradition of the warrior spirit. The warrior spirit where everything is gained by going out and robbing and killing and plundering. And today it's a little bit different. They plunder through inflating the currency and taxation, but it's still plundering, but it's power in the hands of